Welcome back. Today we're looking at the new Civivi Hypersonic. This is designed by custom knife maker Gustavo Cicchini of GTC Knives, and I'm pretty sure before this design you couldn't get anything other than the ZT form. He might have done another one that I don't know about, but I think this might be the cheapest GTC knife design so far that I'm aware of. This particular knife comes in at $89.25, and it's a bigger knife. It's an 8.74-inch total length with a 3.7-inch blade, so it's going to be good for your large, extra large hands. And if you know anything about GTC knives, he does some very futuristic, techno-looking knives. His design language is very, very prominent. It's easy to tell when it's one of his knives, and I think it's speaks out volumes on the Hypersonic. This one, they're calling this a reverse Tanto blade. You can get it in two different versions with the black wash finish and the black scales. You can also get it in a stone wash finish as well. You have a flat grind that comes up about 3/4 of the blade, comes down to around 19 thousandths behind the edge. Just going to thicken up rather quickly because of the low grind on here. It's 0.12 inch on the blade stock, and you have these pocketing on both sides, kind of like a little window that you could also use for deployment. No jimping up top, but I didn't really find the need for it. And you have a good sharpening tool that clears that plunge should you give you some life to sharpen up. I think the plunge comes back, I think it's about right there, so you should have some sharpening life before it starts to widen up. Only markings on the blade is a GTC right here, and if you can see that, the 14C 28N blade steel, which is one of my favorite budget end steel, especially from Civivi. I prefer their 14C over their Nitro V. That's just me. Being that this knife has a very, very, very gradual belly, almost, very close to being a straight edge, it should be excellent for doing in-hand cutting like cardboard and, anything that you can hold in your hand and slice through it. It should do great. Why don't we test that out? The knife came to me with a pretty good edge out of box and was slicing fairly well. It's going to perform well in these in-hand tasks because it has a fairly straight edge to it, close to a Warncliffe blade shape. I didn't really notice much of a difference between the way it's ground or anything. And it's not the sliciest in the world, but definitely get the job done with a good edge on it. I am kind of concerned about the way this handle feels. We're going to test the ergos on this piece of birch. And starting out with light cuts, I was trying to get my grip right. I had to adjust myself several times because of how they have the large choil and then it flares out toward the back of the handle. That you can see me right there when I'm pushing down. That notch where the hump is, where it flares, was really starting to dig into my finger pretty bad, causing a pretty bad hot spot. Doing light stuff, no problem, but definitely, that's what, like I'm showing right there, the back part of that, it was just putting so much pressure in my finger. But the light stuff, it can definitely do. It performed nicely doing that, and I just had to kind of reposition my fingers every so often. If you had large hands, you might be able to get around that, but my medium-sized hand, it just landed right on the corner where that part of the handle flares out, so it wasn't the most comfortable for me. Now we're gonna see how that edge is on this 1/2 inch twisted sisal rope, and it's got a decent bit of bite to it. I was kind of worried that I wasn't going to be able to cut this on a flat surface because you don't have a whole lot of belly to work with. I wouldn't say it was the most comfortable to do this, but it was definitely doable. It had a decent bit of bite. It wasn't the best in the world. I was having to put a good bit of pressure into it, but it was getting through it. I think we ended up making 40 cuts. I think I put it on the screen sometimes, and not terrible. I've had better, I've had worse, but it was okay in this pinch grip. Like I said, just don't have a ton of belly, so you're not getting a lot of that cutting edge surface on the material you're cutting before you hit the cutting board. So definitely not my first choice to do this type of stuff, but it could get the job done if you had to. It's really going to excel at doing these drag cuts like that. Tons of precision with that needle-like point on it, and slicing capabilities once again on the flat cutting surface is doable. It's not the easiest, but definitely doable. It performed fairly well for most of the materials I cut here. The edge still was pretty decent. Didn't, like I said, have the most bite to it, but enough bite to get through this fairly easily. I could feel it wasn't the thinnest behind the edge doing this type of stuff, especially near that tip. But as you can see, it does have some bite left. Not bad. I could probably strop it up and get it back to where it was in the beginning fairly easily. That is one good thing about this steel. It's not that hard to strop it back up. So I'd say everything except doing that wood cutting, it was doing fairly well. I thought the knife performed pretty good. It did great with the cardboard, and it did good with the wood shaving. But once I got past that, I noticed that it didn't have a whole lot of bite to it. Like a lot of my Civivis, they have like a buffed, polished edge to it. So it's sharp for some things, but anything that you need a little bite, like cutting rope, stuff like that, it's going to want to kind of skate off of it. And that was definitely evident when I got to the rope cutting. And also that almost straight edge makes it hard to cut on a flat cutting surface because you're only getting a little bitty portion that's making contact before you come in contact with that cutting board. Now let's close it up. The action on this thing's outstanding. It's riding on ceramic ball bearings with a ceramic detent ball. Excellent design on that flipper tab. Nice and comfortable. It has jimping. And just listen to this. This thing comes out with authority. That's one thing that GTC Knives is known for, is their actions. Is the action on those knives. It comes out nice and fast. Now on the closure, it's okay. It's got more lock bar pressure, so it's not going to be a fall shut knife, but I'm fine with that. It definitely rockets out nice and comfortable. That flipper tab sitting in front of that pivot, so you got a lot of momentum whenever you pull back on it once it breaks that detent ball. Let's go to the frame. You have a flat stainless steel frame with a green peel ply G10 inlay that is done flawlessly. Very, very tight fitment there. They did an excellent job on that. You do have a chamfer going all the way around, so you don't have any sharp areas where you don't want them to be. And let's quickly jump back onto the ergos. I kind of figured this was going to be a problem for me. I can't fit all 3 fingers in here comfortably, so you got to do this number here. And I have a medium-sized hand, so in order to comfortably do it, I would have had to hold it really awkwardly. But whenever I was doing, the wood stuff, pushing down hard, this finger right here is sitting right here on this knot, and that was extremely uncomfortable for me. If you had large, extra large hands, your fingers will probably come back here and you'll probably be okay. But for my hands, that was a hot spot whenever I was doing the heavier cutting. I didn't notice it doing anything else, but if you plan on getting this for doing some harder work, when you're pushing down, if you don't have gloves on, it's probably not going to feel too great. Your pivot and your body screws are flush. T8 on the pivot, T8 on the body screws, and T8 on the pocket clip. This is a tip up right hand carry only knife, and this is a milled stainless steel pocket clip that does function fairly well. Found it went in and out of the pocket nicely. Now, and that's what you have sticking out. Now I will say this is sitting on top of that peel ply, so it could become a pocket shredder. Let's open it up, take a look at the inside. You have, I think this is a steel backspacer as well. I mean, it doesn't look like a G10 backspacer. And this is a pretty weighty knife. They did everything they could to skeletonize the inside of the frame. You can see it on the lock side and on the show scale as well. And then you have this stuff milled out. So they got as much material as they could out, but this is a big knife. First off, in grams, 166.6 grams or 5.87 ounces. I could definitely tell I had a knife in my pocket when I was carrying this. Now let's take a look at the lockup. It's sitting at around, I'd say 50% or so. And that's one thing I can say about this thing. It is a bank vault. No play up or down, left or right. Very, very solid lockup. The access to the lock bar is good because this comes down a little bit lower than the actual lock bar. And you got this nice texturing on there. It's very comfortable to get my finger in there. Very easy to get my finger in there. Quick size comparison, we have the Civivi Synesis and the Civivi Thorax. It's a little bit bigger than the Synesis, and that's a big knife. It dwarfs the Thorax. And we have the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Rat Model 2. It's very similar in overall length to the Rat Model 1. Nitpicks and complaints. First, I would have loved it not be, you know, more steel than G10 like they did on the Voltaic. This one I don't mind because it's not a whole lot of steel there. It's a lightweight knife even with that. Whenever you have that much steel, it's pretty darn heavy. You know, it's way more steel than even on the Thorax, and I thought this one, you know, this is about as heavy as I want to go on it. So it's definitely a weighty knife. Now, I'm okay with that weight if there's benefit to it. So I think what I'm going to do with this knife, I didn't want to do it before the review just in case I destroyed it, but I'm going to do some hard use testing with this, and I want to see how well this stainless lock bar holds up. Now, if it holds up good, if I can baton with it, then yeah, I would say, you know, it's worth it if you're looking for a heavy duty rugged knife. But if it fails and there's no strength benefit to it, then I don't really get it. Only thing I know, one reason why they're doing it is to give you that look of titanium or higher end materials without giving you that higher end price tag. So I get it there, but you know, I would rather have, you know, like I said, on that Voltaic, it still looks nice, and it's not half as weighty as this one is. And then for me, this was a major hotspot. This tip right there where these two intersect, that was really uncomfortable for my pinky whenever I was doing the wood shaving. But I will say this thing has amazing action. And if you're looking for something that is far out there and different, you know, this is a good option for you. That's the only reason I checked this out, because I wanted to check out a GTC design, and I wanted to see how well Civivi did it. So there you go. You know, this one's up to you. This is not for me. So, you know, it's besides, if this isn't a hot spot for you, I'd say, you know, it's a solid knife. But like I said, I want to see how strong this stainless frame lock is compared to a liner lock for them. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Pick up.